Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio.
You're listening to Second Chances with J.R. Gibson, only on LA Talk Radio.
Well, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Second Chances. Our purpose is to provide life stories, life lessons, information, and some knowledge to help you make the best of your second chance. Now, we all face second chances at some point in our lives, whether it's a second chance at careers or finances, marriage, relationships, or many times our health. We all have been there and will continue to be there as we go through life. I'm J.R. Gibson, and I'm joined by my special co-host, Mr. Chives is in the building.
Hello, everybody.
And on today's show, we have a relationship coach. Her Instagram feed is at Black Marriage Movement. So again, that's at Black Marriage Movement. And I think relationships are probably one of the a few areas where most people experience some type of second chance. You know, Chives, most people, we're either going into a relationship, we're going out of a relationship, we've been in a bad relationship, so we don't want no more relationships. So I'm very excited that on today's show, we have a relationship expert who's going to join us and talk about some of these relationship issues and questions that have been plaguing many relationships for a long time. I think that as people, we all crave a successful relationship. I don't know anybody who gets in a relationship and does not want the relationship to work or the relationship to be successful. But with the statistics showing that most relationships end in divorce, to me it seems as if we're missing the mark or there's something we're not getting right, because it seems to be such a high failure rate. If we knew that if I walked out of my house, there was a 60% chance I was going to get hit by a bus, I don't think anybody would leave their house. However, we all have this fascination with wanting to be married or wanting to be in a long-term committed relationship, when statistics show that chances are we're not going to see that. Chances are the relationship is not going to work. So yet, even with that, you know, we still have this desire to want that. So the purpose of today's show is to maybe shine a little light on this subject and hopefully see if we can get some type of consensus on what needs to be done on the male side as well as the female side to make relationships work, to make relationships successful. So before we get into it with our coach, I'm going to let Chives chime in on this subject of relationships. Why do you think, you know, with so many relationships failing, with marriages at an all-time high of leading to divorce, why are there so many people who strive and desire to want to be in a relationship, Chives?
I don't know. I think we've talked about it before. It's the security issue. Some people, you know, just feel, you know, the security. Sometimes I think just people think it's just a thing to do. But it'd be interesting when we talk to her and ask her opinion on what does she think a soulmate exists? Should you be with your best friend? So many questions that we have to ask her and just to get another opinion on. And, you know, we've both been in relationships. I've been in multiple ones myself. So I guess I really need the help to really find out how to make them work or continue to work. So I probably should have a whole notebook out and take a whole bunch of notes.
Take a whole bunch of notes. I think I need some notes as well. Because, you know, the crazy thing is, you know, I think they say that's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Yet we continue trying to chase this perfect relationship or this ideal marriage, yet it keeps not working. So does that mean we're insane? Possibly so.
Yeah, well, if you ask a few people, they probably say I was. So.
The things we do for love.
Yeah.
So I'm excited that on today's show, we have relationship coach
Danai Murari.
She's in the studio today. And as we mentioned, you know, relationships is probably the one area that so many people can relate to. So as we get into this podcast, Danai, can you share a little bit about your background and how you got into relationship coaching?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's really good to be here tonight. I appreciate you guys for inviting me. Or I said tonight, I mean today. So thank you for having me. How I got into relationship coaching, very interesting. I grew up in a house full of boys, and they were very interesting, and their behavior was very interesting. And I was the only girl, and they were super popular. And so a lot of, like, half the basketball team or half the football team would be in our rec room congregating. And there was a lot of interaction with the opposite sex. And interestingly enough, I ended up observing everything and counseling the girls when I was about 15 years old, because I saw so much chaos and confusion. And I knew at some point I would probably formally put some study behind this. And so in 2010, I pursued a master's degree in marriage and family therapy from Pepperdine. So which was a total departure for me, because my normal career is working as a producer in Hollywood.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you feel that like I say, you've basically been starting since you were 15, but do you feel that the schooling, the education you received helped, or you feel that you already basically had it down packed before you even went to school?
That's such a difficult question, and I don't want to, oh gosh. Tell the truth?
Tell the truth. Shame the devil.
The truth is, what I do, I did not learn at Pepperdine.
Exactly. Yeah.
God bless them. I love them. They're a great school. They're an amazing institution. I am all for formalized education and learning, et cetera. I think it gives you a great deal of understanding in terms of, theory, et cetera. And I think everyone, who wants to do something should definitely study it. That is not the only place that I studied. I also studied the actual couples that I was counseling. I probably received the most information from them. Also observing, also while working in Hollywood. Interestingly enough, I always managed to tack on a relationship question in a lot of my interviews and things.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, so I've been collecting information from everywhere. And some things were intuitive. I also, my undergrad is Howard University. While I was there, I also attended Bible college, so I have a biblical worldview. And I've also done a lot with, like, the studies of attraction, masculine and feminine energies, and how we attract each other over time. So there's a lot of stuff that, because I was fascinated by this subject matter, I dove into every time that I had an opportunity. And I'm constantly interviewing couples, just, non-formally, without a mic. Just, I find people, they've been married, they're happy. What is your secret? What did you do? When did you meet? And I just
what worked, what didn't
work. All of that. All of that.
So let me ask you. So why the Black marriage movement? Can you share, like, the significance of the name?
Sure. This is actually funny, and I love saying this particularly when I have nice people who are non-Black and who approach me with that question. I give them the real answer, which is what I'm going to give you guys. Otherwise, I have some, snappy, flippy stuff that I say, with a sense of humor, of course. But no, the honest truth of that is the marriage movement was taken. This is a day of, let's just be honest with you. That's the truth. The real answer is, and I love that, because like I said, when I have people who are non-Black going, well, I don't understand. I'm like, well, here's what it is. I wanted marriage. That was gone.
That name was
I'm Black, so I figured, here's the next. There was nothing racially motivated initially about it. I wanted to speak to couples. And I really wasn't narrow in my thinking in any way. But I do believe in God, and I do believe that there's no such thing as coincidences. And I do also know that Black couples deal with certain specifics that other couples do not have to deal with.
I agree.
That affect our relationships in very real ways. And so I did, think, oh, wow, what a wonderful opportunity to speak to a specific audience. And then I can actually hone in a little more and be much more effective. Because, the broader the audience, the less, you can hone specific messages and target them in. And even with that, interestingly enough, I constantly face questions about, this isn't me, or this doesn't, affect me, or this is not my story. And I'm like, wait for the next post. This is not the only thing I'll ever say. If I'm talking to the women, I get that a lot from the men, or if I'm talking to the men, I get it a lot from the women. and I've let them know, like, a lot of my audience, we're growing so fast. We're growing about 3,500 a week.
Wow.
And so,
That's
so
good.
we're growing really fast right
That
now.
lets you know that there's a need for your message.
Exactly. And people really appreciate it and they love it. But I'm having to constantly train and retrain. Like when we were smaller, I pretty much had them trained to understand where I'm coming from.
Exactly.
I don't treat men and women the same way. I absolutely believe men are men, women are women. Masculine and feminine energies are totally different, and the way that they show up in relationships is different. So when I'm saying things to the men, I'm going to say them to the men. No need to say this goes both ways, or,
Exactly.
you know, I'm not a...
'Cause
No,
they're not.
thank you. And the same thing with the women. I'm like, but everybody gets their chance. I promise. Just wait. So it's funny because when people respond with knee-jerk reactions, they tend to be new. And then once they've been around for maybe, 10 posts,
they get
it's
the
like,
aha moment. I get
okay.
it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I took a look at your page, your Instagram page, and I see a lot of quotes, which I like because some of them are scriptural. And all three of us have backgrounds dealing with the Bible.
Yeah.
But that brings me to a question, because today's version of marriage is different from the marriage that we probably were taught when we were younger.
Right.
So as you talk to people, what do you give them as far as your definition of marriage? And how does that affect you? Because coming from a biblical background,
Right.
you know certain things you just, and then certain things now it's kind of like, so when you help people, what is your definition of like the marriage?
It's funny. No one's ever asked me that.
Wow.
So I've never had to define it. I've never said...
that should be the first question they should ask.
No, nobody's ever said,
Wow.
what is the definition of marriage? So I literally got that question and was thinking, dang, how do I define marriage?
Wow.
No, for me, it's just, I do have a biblical worldview. I say that at the beginning of every live. My live streams have become very popular. I tend to go live Wednesday, 5 o'clock on Wednesdays.
Okay.
And I say at the beginning, I introduce myself, I give my educational background, I give my biblical background, and I let them know I am traditional. You don't have to be. I'm a Bible girl. You don't have to be.
Yeah.
I believe that men and women are different. So don't bother telling me that they're the
Exactly.
same.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
telling you what I believe. You don't have to agree with it. But everything that I'm giving you, particularly as a coach and someone who has put a little bit of study behind this, and her money where her mouth is, I'm contributing to you guys what I've studied and what I find to be valuable. And so if you don't like it, it's totally fine.
Exactly, yeah.
But I'm going to say it because it's what I know. And I put enough time and energy behind it
Exactly.
to know a little something. And you're free to leave if you don't like it too.
Not
Like that's
making
totally...
you come find my page.
Right. But
Yeah.
if I were to define marriage, I would say, to me, marriage is this beautiful concept that is an illustration. I feel like it's the perfect illustration of God in the earth. So when you bring a man and a woman together and they have a child, that's sort of foundationally the beginning of and the structure of any society, right? Man, woman, child. And with every single situation, it tends to be that everything comes back to that. You have strong families, you have strong marriages, you have strong communities. You have strong communities, you have a strong country, you have a strong country, you have a strong world. And the opposite is true.
Yeah.
So, and I think foundationally, so much of the breakdowns in society are because we don't have strong families.
Wow.
I agree.
And that has more to do with people truly not knowing how to love each other,
Yeah.
not having great models,
Yeah.
and then sort of what I find to be more troublesome just for me is no one knows how to do it, but everyone seems to think they're supposed to know how to do it.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
then they
Yeah.
don't know when to reach out for help, or they don't reach out for help.
They don't, yeah.
And then they call you in when they're ready to divorce.
Yeah,
Help
exactly.
us. Whoa, wait a minute.
Especially in our community.
Yeah, do you know
Yeah,
you
yeah.
could have gotten me for
Yeah.
premarital? Do you know that you could have checked in once
And
a
that you
year?
should have. You
This is
should
what
have
I'm saying.
gotten it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I recommend, I have several mentors, and my recommendation is premarital. But even before premarital counseling, because premarital is once you guys have decided
Yeah,
you got a
yeah.
ring on it, you're moving
No,
forward.
you need help before that.
That's what I was going to say. I say before that, I say single people should be seeing a counselor. You don't have to see them every single
Yeah,
week
yeah,
to
yeah.
work out everything, but you should be seeing a counselor if you're considering getting married and that's what you're dating for, because you need to be able to structure this thing
Yeah,
in such a
yeah,
way that you
yeah.
can win and that you can actually do something with intention, with the goal in mind. So there's a
Exactly.
lot of there are a lot of different things here, but specifically with counseling and with married couples, I would say premarital, and then for the first year, you're going to negotiate time, space, money, and play. That's not me. That's Dr. Pat Allen.
Okay.
And you're going to negotiate all those things, yours,
Can you say that
mine, and
again?
ours.
Negotiate
Time, space,
space,
money,
money.
and play.
Now, what do you mean?
Sexual
what do
and
you mean-
non-sexual.
What do you mean by space?
Space, drawers, shelves, a man cave.
Yeah,
Oh,
I need to get that
okay.
specific.
Yes,
That's so,
you
that's
have to
key.
get, because this is what people fight over.
Yeah.
Bathrooms. Are we doing separate
Wow.
bathrooms, the same bathroom? What are we, you know what I mean? How are we going to divvy up our time, our space, our money, and our play? And how much space do
That's
we
good.
need?
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And the play is both sexual and non-sexual. And you take all these categories and you break them into yours, mine, and ours.
Wow.
And so there's so much, like I said, relationships have to be negotiated. If you do not negotiate them, you're going to have an incredible amount of difficulty. But no one teaches us
No,
that.
shit.
We think, I like him. He's cute.
Yeah,
Oh, my
yeah.
goodness, she's hot. Let's do this. And
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
there's so much that needs to be worked
Yeah,
out.
because that only lasts so long.
Yeah, yeah.
And the
It's
crazy
gonna fizzle.
part is, if they're not, like, say they come to us in the middle of a relationship, so it's not as bad as like divorce or anything, and they're having difficulties.
Yeah.
I noticed this because I used to listen to Dr. Laura for the entire time she was on the air on public radio, and every time someone would call in and say they were having a relationship problem, not every time, most of the time she would say, tell me what you guys discussed while you were courting, and please don't tell me it never came up.
Yeah. Most likely it never came.
And see,
And
me,
that,
Yeah.
that's
me,
the
and,
thing.
me and JR talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
It's the communication.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
communication
Honest
is
communication.
is essential, because it's like you didn't see those traits when you guys were seeing each other.
Exactly, Yeah.
I saw them, but I thought they'd go away,
Yeah,
or I
yeah,
thought I
yeah.
could change them.
I thought I could change him. I thought I
You
could
know,
change her.
we all thought we could change them. It's funny. They say that men go into marriage praying she will never change, and women go into marriage hoping he will
Wow,
change.
that's true. Yeah. I
So
see that.
we need to be more honest. We need to keep our eyes open. We need to understand what the trends are. Having a coach is great because I can alert. I always say, you don't have to study relationships.
Yeah,
Just come to someone
yeah,
who has,
yeah, exactly,
you know,
yeah, yeah.
and I can alert you of, after speaking with you and assessing where you are,
Exactly.
kind of some of the things that I see that someone who is of your caliber or of your background or whatever might fall into. But yeah, the first year, every 4 months, you guys should, like I said, negotiate these things. And the reason why you want to do that is because a lot of times what happens is there are a lot of things that are unspoken in relationships that end up being standards and rules, but at some point in the relationship, they might not work for one or the other party.
person, yeah.
So you might start off saying, I only need this much time with
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so your man might think, okay, well, she only needs that much time. So he gets used to that. And so he
Yeah.
gives his other time to other things.
Exactly.
And at some point,
She changes.
she changes.
I need more time.
Right, and she needs
Yeah.
more time. Or she might have accepted something, and I hate it when people blame and judge, because there's nothing wrong with being with someone and them saying this is what I want, and her going, okay, I don't necessarily prefer that, or I've never had that before, but you know, you're worth it. I think you're a great person. I'll try that on.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm saying a lot of times that process happens internally.
Yeah.
It might not be communicated.
Communicated, yeah,
And
yeah.
so she says yes to something, and he thinks that's good because maybe it was something that was mandatory for him,
Yeah,
but it was
yeah.
optional for her.
Exactly.
They go a little further. It's not feeling good to her. And now he's like, well, you already said that this, and
Exactly,
he doesn't
yeah.
want to change. And the problem is, people say you have to stay the same. And that's why I'm saying,
No.
if people learn early on, we're going to negotiate this thing, but we're also going to negotiate it at different stages. And we're going to continue to check in with each other and find out, is this still
Is it
working
still
for
working?
you?
Yeah, yeah,
because what worked for me 3 months ago that
May
I was
not.
trying on, I'm now
Exactly. Yeah,
realizing,
yeah.
oh, wait, I don't like that. You
Oh,
know?
what worked for me 5 years ago, I won't be the same person I was 5 years ago.
Definitely. So it's like
Exactly, yeah.
4 times in the first year, you know,
And then
2 to 3
consistently.
times in the next 2 or 3 years. And then after like the 5-year mark, you come back once a year and you're just
see.
checking in and doing your maintenance. Well, how much different would a relationship be where if you knew, okay, in June, I'm going to get to renegotiate, and
Yeah,
I'm going to
yeah.
get to renegotiate
Wow.
not just with me and him, who might be having difficulties dealing with stuff. Maybe one of you usually sweeps stuff under the rug. The other one usually is much more confrontational. But if you knew, okay, we're going to have a coach at least once a year, and we're going to be able to address the things that are not working. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
How many times do we see couples and we're like, this has been going on for 12 years and it's not working. They just don't know how to deal.
No,
You
we
know what I
weren't
mean?
taught these things. Wow, I like your definition of marriage.
Certainly
And,
do. Me too.
It brought up, I never thought about a definition of marriage as an illustration of God, but it brought up something that Jada, I don't know if you follow.
Yes,
Smith and
Red
Jada
Table
Pinkett,
Talk.
Red Table Talk. Something she said a while ago which was pretty controversial, and but I took it to mean something a little bit deeper. And she said that there's nothing that Will, and she said, I told her this, there's nothing that Will could do that would make me not want to be his wife. And a lot of people took it to say, wait, she's giving him a pass. That means he can cheat.
They always do.
Exactly. That means he can do. I took it to mean this is what marriage is supposed to be. It's that covenant.
Right.
So she's saying, look, I took these vows through sickness and through health.
Yeah.
To death do us part.
Right.
I'm going to be with you no matter what you're going through. That's what I took as a man.
Absolutely.
It seemed most people on social media didn't take it that way.
Right.
But that is the illustration of God to me in a marriage where I says, you know what? There's nothing you're going to be able to do that's going to stop my love that I have for you.
And that is God's love. God's love says no matter what.
Yeah.
In fact, throw your best shot at me. Oh, look, I'm still here. I love you.
Exactly.
And don't we all love that?
Yeah.
And so you're right. God is love. And so you cannot have love without God in it. He is love.
Yeah.
And marriage doesn't work without him. Foundationally, I find that I go back to Ephesians 5:22 through 33 for everything. I just wrote a book called Understanding Masculine Respect. It's $30, and it's you can DM me if you guys want details, or you can email me, which is on my on the Black Marriage Movement on my bio page. There's an email, so you guys can reach out to me for that. But the premise of the book is the premise of a lot of this. Men need respect.
Yeah. It's the number one thing we need.
And they define respect as, they define love as respect.
As respect. Yep.
And in fact, it's been said that if you take 99 men, if you take 100 men and you ask them, would you prefer to be respected or loved, that 99 would say they prefer to be respected.
That's true.
But that's foreign to women in concept form, because we're not that way. We prefer the love part. And so the opposite is true as well. Women feel loved when we are cherished and adored. We don't feel loved if you just respect us. Well, what I have discovered largely, like I said, with some of the teachings of Dr. Pat Allen, is that there can only be two roles in a relationship, the respected role and the cherished role. The respected is the masculine, the cherished is the feminine, and you can only play in a romantic relationship, no matter the caliber of the relationship, in order to have attraction over time. Each one has to pick a part.
Wow.
And here's what's interesting, and this is where we go black with this, but if you insist on both being respected and cherished, that is narcissism.
Wow.
And you have to book an appointment. And what it means with narcissism is you should never marry and you should never have children. And I will tell you why. The reason it's so important for you to pick a role is the respected, which is the masculine, has duties. There's something that they're supposed to do in order for them to show up in the relationship. The cherished, which is the feminine, has duties as well. And the simplest way for me to say this is picture a relationship. There are 10 points in every relationship, right? 5 for the masculine, 5 for the feminine. The masculine, it's all about what he wants, what his opinions are, what he thinks, etc. For the feminine, it's all about what she feels. And if she's not feeling good, he's supposed to respond to that and ask her how he can make her feel better, right? If he's not doing well, then she's supposed to ask him how she can help him to do well, right? So this is the masculine, this is the feminine, and this is the respected, this is the cherished. They each get 5 points. Well, what happens is when one person decides they want to be both, they take all 10 points and the
Okay,
other
okay.
person is a zero.
Zero,
There's
yeah.
no place for them to appear.
I see.
So now, one of the ways that this shows up is a woman will tell a man how she feels, and the proper response is supposed to be, what can I do? Like, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but what can I do to help you feel better?
Exactly, yeah.
Well, instead of him saying, what can I do to help you
No.
feel better, he'll typically say something like, well, your feelings are making me feel bad, so I don't like that. Which means he has not responded to her.
I see.
Her needs are not going to get met. He's not interested in what it is that she's bringing to the table or in addressing her needs, and vice versa. So that's why it's really important for us to meet each other's needs and to understand that's part of our duty
Yeah,
when we're
yeah.
in a relationship.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, the confusion shows up. This is where we're in Black relationships. In Black women in particular are, and it's societal. Everyone's going, no, Black women deserve respect.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
Black women deserve respect too. And so I'm regularly on my page going, no, babe, you don't want respect.
Wow.
And I'm adding to this caveat. You want respect in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want respect with your friends. You want respect with your family. But if you insist on respect from your romantic partner,
Okay.
you're going competitive masculine or narcissist. So you either have to give up being cherished or you are now a narcissist. If you're a narcissist, you need to stay single.
Yeah.
And you see
That's
all
deep.
these points that you're making
Yeah.
come back to the same thing that it all boils down to: the communication.
Yeah.
See,
Absolutely.
all this is communication.
Absolutely, because I'll have people argue me into the ground. What do you mean? You want me to be disrespected?
Exactly.
I'm a coach. Do you think that I want you to be
No,
disrespected?
exactly. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
a woman. Do you think I want women to be
No,
disrespected?
no.
Your focus is wrong. I want you to be loved.
Exactly. Okay.
And what you don't understand is if you demand respect in a romantic relationship with a masculine man, you do so in lieu of cherishing and adoring. You're giving it up.
Wow. Ooh, that's that.
Because there's no place else for
Well,
him
no
to
wonder
appear.
I've had so many problems.
There's no place else for him to appear.
Exactly,
There's
yeah,
only,
yeah.
and energetically, this is deep. Energetically, whoo, we affect and influence each other in ways we don't even realize
We
that are
don't, yeah.
completely invisible. So some of this has to do with, like I said, how we're showing up. If we're showing up occupying our masculine or occupying our feminine, that affects our partner because there's only two spaces in a relationship. So whichever space you occupy, you're going to attract your complement to that space. You're not going to attract the same. You're gonna, and here's the interesting thing. Dr. Pat Allen deals with gay and lesbian couples as well. This will fascinate you. Even with gay and lesbian couples, she's like, I've never managed to make a romantic partnership work where two people were occupying the same energy.
It has to be the
you
same.
can't
Yeah,
have
no,
masculine and
no.
feminine. You've got to have a
Yeah.
top and a bottom.
Yeah,
So the
yeah.
point being, if it's attraction is a very specific thing that you can study, and it's based on, polarity.
Yeah, yeah.
So there has to be a draw. In order to be
Exactly.
a draw, there are complements.
Yeah, yeah,
So two spaces. If you show up as a feminine, you're going to attract masculine. If
Exactly.
you show up as a masculine,
You're
you're
gonna
going to attract
attract
feminine.
those
So we got to
opposites.
remember that in our relationships.
Wow, that's
That's
so
good
deep.
advice. It's really, really
That
good
really
advice.
is.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Okay, so statistics, over 50% of all marriages end in divorce. And I mentioned this earlier that if we knew there was a 50-60% chance if you walked out of your house you was going to get hit by a bus, nobody would leave their homes.
Right.
Yet we as society, we have this fixation on this dream marriage or this picture perfect relationship with the dogs and the white picket fence. Yet we know that our chances of achieving that are slim. It's chances are we're not going to see that. And we have these there are people who have been in relationships for a very long time. Let's say Oprah and Stedman or Kurt Russell, Goldie Hawn. People who have had these successful relationships.
Joy Behar. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And swear that the reason they're still together and it works is because they haven't put the title of marriage on it.
Right. Although Joy Behar recently got married.
And same,
but, yeah.
Tina Turner, for a long time, she refused to marry. The only reason she recently got married to her longtime lover was because of the legal benefits. She wanted to make
Right.
sure the kids were taken care of.
Right.
Do you feel that putting the marriage title is a death sentence on a relationship?
I did, I wouldn't have created the Black Marriage Movement. I clearly do not. No. In fact, really interesting. And so, first of all, again, I'm a Bible girl, so I just believe in doing things the way that I personally believe God put it out there.
Okay.
I also don't think God creates things just for stuff. And it's interesting how many people I've known for whom they've done it, let's call it shacking respectfully. They've shacked up and then later been married and literally said they understood why, the marriage part is necessary. It is not a piece of paper. It's not just a legal document. It is based on covenant. I do believe in all that because every, for all of the backlash or the pushback, mine is a biblical concept. So usually that alone gets rid of everything that people would say. But I think there is also just honor for God, which creates honor for each other. Like I can't properly honor you if I don't honor God, and you can't properly honor me. But on top of that, the truth is we're going to have bad, horrible days. A marriage, particularly one of 50 years, my grandparents have been married for 68 years.
Wow.
Yes. And so there's going to be some bad days in there. And at your worst, something bigger than you has to keep you connected or you're not going to be connected.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, and I also think one of the issues, well, a lot of the issues that we're having is there are no rules. And so everybody's creating everything. And as a result of that, I don't know. There's something about making it official that makes me say, if you're not willing to make it official, why? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, what are you trying to get away with or get away from? When men and women come together, the woman is supposed to give up her independence. The man is supposed to take on responsibility. A lot of marriages are splitting because that's not happening. They say that it's money. I don't think it's money, although what I think is really interesting, going right back to this respect and cherishing thing, there was a time in this country where our marriages were intact and our families were intact. And interestingly enough, during that time, people knew what their roles were. A woman knew what her job was. A man knew what his job was. There was no confusion.
Whether they liked it or not.
She
knew what her role was.
But the truth is not everybody hated it. Everybody's acting like...
Exactly. Now,
thank you.
Hindsight.
Your grandmother got beat and your granddad had 3 families. Mine didn't. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, no, she didn't. And they're in love right now.
Exactly.
And so, like, I hate those narratives because I think that it's easier for us to, apply these broad, sweeping negativities so that we don't have to do the work.
Exactly.
I think that's just the reality, And so I lost my train of thought. What was the question?
We were talking about is marriage a death sentence on relationships?
Right. No, I don't think so. I think people don't know how to do relationships.
How to do it,
I think, every statistic known to man shows that married couples are happier, they're healthier, they're wealthier. Yes, we do need to figure out what we're doing with the property. We do need to figure out what we're doing with the children. I don't want my kids, if I should pass or he should pass or both, God forbid, to go to the county. And I don't want my property going to some, relative that I can't stand and not to my children. You know what I mean? Like there's if you're going to do life with people, then there's an order to things. And I find that people who want to escape order, there's a reason. I will say this though. One of the interesting things, there are a couple different studies, but one of the interesting things that I found in one of the studies I was looking up in terms of people who are living together but are not married is that a lot of them have seen a bad marriage. And as a result of that, in the back of their minds, it's not that they don't want the relationship, they don't want what they saw in their mind.
Exactly.
So even that has nothing to do with marriage. It has to do with how their people got it wrong.
Exactly.
So the answer is not, well, we're just not going to get married.
No.
Study the concept. Again, what is it supposed to look like? This is what it is. And then find someone who wants to create this with you and apply the actual rules. Like, I think part of it is, we have this product over here that's been given to us by the Creator, and then we don't want to apply the rules.
No.
If he's saying your man needs respect, give him that. Get curious about it. Study it. Lean into it. What does that look like? What does that not look like? How do I do that, etc. And the other, you should be studying how to cherish and adore a woman. Every man should be studying what does it look like to cherish and adore a woman, and every woman should be looking at what does it look like to respect and honor a man. What do people go into what do people get married for and go into marriage with? He's cute, he's got a house and a car, and he makes six figures, and he went to Harvard. She's hot, she looks beautiful, look at all that hair, look at that body, and I don't even know anything else. That's where I stop.
Exactly.
That's all I need. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, well, I think you're going to get there, so I'm going to leave that alone. Yes.
Yeah. So that kind of brings us to another question, but you kind of answered it because we're wondering. So, should the medical history, the family traits, finances, childhood come into consideration before you fall in love? But I think we all agree that, like you said,
should it come into consideration before you fall in love, or should those situations be reason I quote unquote fall out of love with a person?
Because, and not to cut you off before you answer, because the childhood is such a big thing. Because, like you said, what you see where you grew up, it does kind of pattern you for later on down the life. Because if you don't know how, if you've only seen arguing between relationships, and then when the argument comes to a head, your mother, your father walked out the house. 9 times out of 10, that's what you end up doing. And this is my second time being married. And the first time, I had no business being married. I had no concept of how to be a husband, and even now, I still struggle because I just used to just
because you're human.
Yeah. And partly because I always thought that I would always fail at having a family because initially my parents were divorced. So I had this feeling that no matter what, I just thought that no matter what I would do, it just wouldn't work out.
That's unfortunate.
And
gorgeously transparent. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So, couple things. Absolutely 100%. We all go back to who we were raised to be. But also, the person that you pick is suited to unearth all of the painful messages of your childhood and lessons of your childhood and painful lessons that you now are trying to rectify. So it's not that you're going to get divorced. It's that if you don't change anything and if you just do this thing unconsciously, and I will even say if you do it alone, you probably will because you don't know what you're doing. But if you choose to, today we're in the information age. I got Black Marriage Movement. I'm starting a podcast. This is a podcast. There's going to be a radio show. There are podcasts, radio shows. There are coaches. There are counselors. There are ministers. There are therapists. There is tons of free content on YouTube and Instagram and you name it if you cannot afford it. So there's just no excuse or no reason not to get the information now that would allow you to no longer have to play out the patterns of your childhood. So if you play out the patterns, you will repeat them. If you challenge them, address them, and become curious about them, you won't. And I think the problem is people get afraid of them, or they marry unconsciously, unaware of what they're walking into. I also think Pastor John Gray recently had a post, and I reposted and everyone reposted, and people came for him, and I thought it was so unfair. It was completely unfair for a couple different reasons. Number one, it is part of the job of a minister to be transparent so that we can understand what he's gone through, and like Christ, we can see his wounds and be healed by them. And he graciously did that, and people came for him. So I thought, number one, that was off. But number two, the amount of projection that women in particular placed on this man and this woman's marriage was illuminating and eye-opening for me, because I did not realize, I knew that women were in pain, but I was not aware of how much unhealed pain, so that when they are triggered, they will hear something that is not being said.
Exactly,
He never said he cheated on his wife. He never said he put her through 8 years of pain. He never said he did not reciprocate loving her.
Exactly.
You'd be surprised how many people on my page, he didn't reciprocate.
Exactly.
And he never said that he would not be there for her too. Everyone's like, well, where was he when he was
he was right there. Yeah.
Right? So, but more importantly, I feel like there's a false narrative, being perpetuated that is leading women to believe that if a man has any growing to do, any growth to do, any pain to unearth based on his childhood and the processes, and if he doesn't deal with that before he meets her, then that is an abuse, number one. It is selfish and unkind, number two. And it is something that he is intentionally doing that is diabolical, and that is false.
No, that's false. That's
and
true.
I want to go on record as saying it's false. The truth is, number one, the gentleman said, I didn't even know how I was hurt until I got into marriage. And can I tell you that's accurate? The truth, which means he never said, I showed up with a problem, I knew I had a problem, and I said, this is going to be my wife's problem.
Exactly.
That's not what he said.
No.
He said, I showed up in marriage, I was broken, I didn't realize how broken, and then as a trigger for marriage, which is going to happen, issues started coming up. Why am I taking time with this right now? Because I need women to know that is a natural process in a relationship. You are going to have issues. They're going to come up. They're going to be painful. You're going to need your spouse to hold space for you. He is going to have issues. They're gonna come up. They're gonna be painful, and you're gonna need to hold space for him. More importantly, I really want to exert and let you know this is natural. This is normal. This is part of the process of marriage. So if you don't want to deal with a broken person and you don't want to deal with somebody who's not healed, and I mean completely healed, then please don't get married because it's ridiculous. And to that end, marriage is servanthood. It's sacrificial.
Wow.
There are some struggles you're going to have. Everything is not going to be perfect. And if you need it to be perfect, you should not marry. And just because someone struggles or goes through struggle does not mean that they are trying to personally attack you. You know what I mean? Like, one of the worst things that we do in marriage is we come in with an understanding that whatever my spouse does, I take personal. And that is one of the most harmful mentalities you can have in a marriage, because it's not liberating. It's like a jail cell, and literally everything that they do, it's a selfish way of thinking. It's basically, I'm the center of your world. So whatever you do, if you put that there, then you did that because, you were just trying to bother me. Or, good and well, I don't like things on the table. And so you did that just to disrespect me because you knew good and well. And I'm like, whoa, I'm at home. I forgot. I just put the glass down. It didn't have anything to do with you. Or really I had 20 other things in my head. I was just thinking about, my boss or my whatever. And I literally mindlessly did something. That doesn't mean you didn't get offended by it. It does mean I had no intention of offending you.
Yeah. Wow. That's deep. And the crazy thing is with the Pastor John Gray situation, what I noticed on social media was, what was the wife? So many people had so many negative things to say, not only about Pastor Gray, but about his wife.
Right.
What did they expect for her to do? Was she supposed to say, okay, I'm done. I saw this. Goodbye. We're done. To me, if that's your thinking, you're never going to be married, or you're never going to stay in a marriage, because there is no perfect person. I don't care what the guy has, what he drives, what he makes. I can promise you, most guys are broken in one area or another.
Absolutely.
And it goes back to not having fathers in the home.
And so are women.
And so are women, exactly. So it's vice versa. So if you jump ship at the first sign of trouble, what does that say for building the lasting relationship?
Fair weather friends. You know what I found incredibly interesting? And this is why I'm saying I realized the pain of Black women is deeper than I even realized. And I can honor that. Let me just say I honor that. I have complete, total compassion and empathy, because pain is real. It's absolutely real. But unhealed pain is detrimental. We have to heal our own pain.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I could hear someone being like, well, that's hypocritical because you're saying John didn't have to heal his own pain. So let me specify what I mean.
You have to.
This is what I mean. Once you're aware of your pain, John said he wasn't
He
aware.
wasn't aware. He said that.
So that's what I'm saying. Stop putting things on people if they're unaware.
yeah.
Everything is not intentional, and intention is everything. Once you're aware, I am broken, I am damaged, I am not healed. It is on you to heal yourself. That's number one. So it's on every individual to heal themselves. Number two, if you have a spouse, when you realize that, I would hope that your spouse would be a part of that
Exactly.
experience
Yeah.
and help.
And
I would not say just get a therapist.
Yeah,
I understand like what therapists are for, and I'm not saying don't get a therapist. So don't do extremes here. I am saying my hope, if I unearthed childhood pain and I had a spouse, is that my spouse would walk with me through that. And so, yes, is it my spouse's job to heal me? No, my healing is my responsibility. But if I have somebody with me, I would hope they would walk with me, do that. If I don't have somebody with me at the point that I realize that, then I need to do that on my own and get better before I bring that to someone else. And I think there are just we have to have a larger conversation in the black space between black men and women, because there's a war brewing, and it's not necessary. I'm all for love. Let's just love each other. I can show you the way. Follow me. Keep your offenses back there. Don't bring them with you. You won't need them.
People like to screw 'em.
Yeah. I felt the other thing, I did feel like it was unfair for Aventure. Because here's the thing, and this stuff is the kind of stuff that when you think about it, makes no sense. If my friends go through anything, we hold each other down. We hold each other down, no matter what it is in life. If it's a divorce, a job loss, or whatever.
Exactly.
We're bringing food. People are opening up guest bedrooms. Someone will give a car, like whatever. We'll hold each other down. If I do that for my man, all of a sudden I'm weak, pathetic, and stupid.
Why are you doing that? That's not your responsibility.
When did that happen?
Yeah.
At what point did it become pathetic to support your man? And I understand it. What it is there are women who have supported men, and as a result of that, the men have not stepped up. I will acknowledge that. That is absolutely true.
I can agree, yeah.
But that is not every case.
No.
That is not every man.
No.
And the solution is not to withdraw love.
Exactly.
The solution is to create better relationships and pick better men who are capable of giving back, which this I do want to say, because I don't feel like it was stressed enough. What I want to say about John Gray that we should have been focused on is this man said, anything my wife wants for the rest of her life, she can have. There is nothing that woman cannot have for me. There is nothing I will not do for her. And the other thing that I think was unfair was people were going, you're unequally yoked. Okay, the man is a world-renowned speaker with books and a television show on the Oprah Winfrey Network. He's touring the world, and he's amazing father and husband. Define unequally
Please let me
yoked,
know.
like how? And I just it boggles me, because I feel like they were saying he's a loser, and I'm like, really?
What are you saying?
What part of?
Exactly.
So we have to bring logic back to the table. I understand the emotion. I understand the pain. We need to bring the logic back to the table. This is a good man in a good marriage, and both of them are happy.
Exactly.
Isn't that what the objective is?
That is, yeah.
Supposed to be.
So I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like how people think they're going to get to happy. Happy is you got to go through a
got to go
process.
through,
Why do you think people aren't happy?
Exactly.
They're not willing to go through process. You can't get there any other way.
Yeah.
So I'm just not going to lie about that. And that doesn't mean that I'm all for struggle love or for women being abused. I'm not.
No.
I'm for process.
Well, whew, that was a lot.
I want to know. I know you asked me something about sex.
Yeah.
I want to. Do we have time for it?
No, unfortunately, that was we're gonna have to get you back. But let me get your name pronunciation right for it.
Danai.
Okay.
Yes.
So thank you, Danai, for coming on the show. Black Marriage Movement. That's your on Instagram. You have she has great relationship advice, topics, and discussion. I've looked at the posts. I like the positivity. I like that you communicate with the people that are on your page. So everybody that's listening, please make sure you follow her. Is very it's positive, and that means a lot in this day and age.
It really, really does. So we had a lot more we want to talk about, of course, with a subject as deep as relationships. You can go on and on. And so we truly do hope you would come back.
Absolutely.
And we can finish this conversation because I think it's so needed, it's so meaningful, and it's so necessary, especially within our community for us to grow. So until next time, remember, it's never too late for a second chance. We want to give a great big thanks to Danai. Follow her on Black Marriage Movement on Instagram. Until next time, you guys be cool.
Yep. Thank you.
I'm a talker. See, you guys should.
You're listening to Second Chances with J.R. Gibson, only on LA Talk Radio.